Shalom. First off, I want to start off by saying all praises, honor, and glory is due unto Yahweh by Hashem Yahushai, by Hashem Rakakadash. It's all praises to the world cause God, whose true name in the Hebrew is Yahweh, by Hashem meaning in the name of Yahushai being the name of the only begotten Son. Also, I want to say divine honors to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and mercy to the hopeful elect, preaching His word in truth and sincerity. I'm the brother Tazabah in the Great Millstone, Arizona camp. Lord will with another video to edify. And here you go, man. Here you go. And I'm gonna start off with this precept and get into it. It says this is Revelation 18:3. It says, "For all the nations have drunken of the wine of the wrath of her fornication, and the kings of earth have committed fornication with her, and the merchants of the earth are waxed rich through the abundance of her delicacies." So now Iran, and the reason why I bring up that precept is because what you're gonna see is Iran, and Ice Age Farmer goes into this. Iran is fully submitting to this new world order. Right? You look into those when you really get into those how do you say it? Those World Economic Forums, the Great Reset meetings. You always see them niggas in turbans. You always see them niggas in those Middle Eastern robes, right? Because they're all part of it, right? They might have a problem with Esau, but at the end of the day, they're down for whatever plans they bring up because they've committed fornication with this devil, right? And so they're about to pull out the same plan that Esau wants, and they're going to be the first ones to push it because their people are isolated, right? In their countries, they can shut down the internet easy. They've already been doing it in Iran because of all the riots that have been going over the food prices, right? And they don't put it on the news. They don't put these things on the news because they're basically making it information in a vacuum to where they can just do their plan over there to get what they need to go to have it happen in America, right? So this is Iran digital food rationing rollouts using biometric IDs amid food riots. It says Iran is set to be the first country to roll out a food rationing scheme based on biometric IDs, where the vaccine passport failed food passports will now be eagerly accepted by hungry people who can't afford rapidly inflating food prices. And this is why, let me get this one. This is why the scripture says this, Matthew 4:4. And he answered and said, "It is written, man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeded out of the mouth of the Most High." Because where we have a cutoff, where we understand that our bread is given to us by the Lord, the people in the world, they don't have this cutoff. They fully believe that whatever they get is, they fully believe that whatever they get is because the world supplied it. Somebody directly in front of them, right? So what they'll give into this plan, because what this is all hitting on is the mark of the beast, that new systems, that biometrics. When you're talking about biometric, right? Biology and mechanics, that's what they're talking about. So they're going to sit here and make a system where it's going to be metrically ran, which means what? At some point, it's going to go from being these digital IDs like ID 2020, which is part of the Great Reset. They're going to sit here and go from using it as an outward means to verify yourself, right? And just like everything else that they've used to sit here and digitize the world, they're going to sit here and say fraud is the reason why we have to go this route. Security is the reason we have to go this route. And now food is going to be a major driver because a lot of people in the world, they can't go without eating. It's just, this is a realization of a long-standing agenda by the Rockefeller, UN, WEF, World Economic Forum crowd to Kissinger put it, control food and control people, right? So I'm going to play a little bit of this video, and Lord will it be all edifying.
My friends, welcome. The mark is here. Iran is set to be the first country to roll out a biometric digital ID needed in order to buy food. Needed in order to eat. Right? Needed in order to survive. You must go get your digital ID from the government. The same
Revelation 13 and 16. It says, and he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark, which has gone into the charagma. When you look at that word in the Greek, which means what? An imprinted mark, something etched in, engraved, which is going into that RFID chip. Right? That thing gets cut into you, right? And it's used to what? Keep track, hold records, right? And buy and sell. And they're doing this all throughout the world. Right? You talk about Dubai. Dubai has people using implantable microchips. Right? It says, free and bond to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And that chief thing of buying and selling is eating, food, sustenance, right? And that's what he's talking about.
same digital ID that central banks are telling us is needed in order to roll out the central bank digital currencies. The same digital ID that the World Economic Forum establishes is at the very crux of this fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, all of that now, you need to go get your ID in order to eat. Now, there's some interesting details about the way Iran is implementing this that I want to walk through today, because I think this is a bellwether for how it's going to be rolled out around the rest of the world. And make no mistake, this is food rationing based on your digital ID. Let's read down here.
You know what? I gotta go back because I have my headphone on.
My friends, welcome. The mark is here. Iran is set to be the first country to roll out a biometric digital ID needed in order to buy food. Needed in order to eat. Right? Needed in order to survive. You must go get your digital ID from the government. The same digital ID that central banks are telling us is needed in order to roll out the central bank digital currencies. The same digital ID that the World Economic Forum establishes is at the very crux of this fourth industrial revolution. Yeah, all of that now, you need to go get your ID in order to eat. Now, there's some interesting details about the way Iran is implementing this that I want to walk through today, because I think this is a bellwether for how it's going to be rolled out around the rest of the world. And make no mistake, this is food rationing based on your digital ID. Let's read down here. You're able to buy as much bread as you want, but if you want to get the subsidized prices, then you're going to need the ID. Then you'll have access to, quote, a limited amount of bread at subsidized prices. And you can keep buying the rest at market rates if you want, right? You can buy as much bread for $1 million a loaf as you want.
You see? It's a full out cutout from the entire economic system that no man might buy or sell. So if you don't have this, you'll have to buy this food at an entirely exorbitant rate. Right? But this is gonna be their form of peace. Right? This is Daniel's 8:25. It says, and through his policy he shall also cause craft to prosper in his hand. Right? And these people are getting these blueprints of how to push out this legislation and how to make these things work from somewhere. Right? These things do not organically just happen. Right? These major powerhouse rich Edomites and these niggas in these other countries do not just come together and talk about, what bitch they smashed. They're talking about big things. Right? Talking about the moving of money, the moving of assets, and the controlling of the people. Policy. And what you're seeing is a policy going over there that's easily going to come over to America. Right? It says, and he shall magnify himself in his heart, and by peace shall destroy many. He shall also stand against the prince of princes, but shall be broken without hands. So that's the point. By peace, right? Those reasonable food prices, right? Because when you go to the book of Revelation, right, it talks about, get this, it talks about those prices shooting up to that, right? This is Revelation 6:6. It says, and I heard a voice in the midst of the four beasts say, a measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures of barley for a penny. You see that thou hurt not the oil and the wine, right? That penny goes into pence, which was a full day's wage. Imagine if you had to use an entire day's wage for just a little bit of food, right? That it's shockingly increasing rate that things are going to cost. And these things are happening. This is why they're sitting there. Countries are cutting off exports here and there. This is why, because when they cut off these exports here and there, they're cutting off the supply of other goods, which actually weakens the country, right? And this is why more and more riots are going to happen, more and more sedition. Let's get this. This is 2nd Ezra 15 and 14. Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draw nigh, and when one people should stand up and fight against another, and swords in their hands. Why? Because goods are going to be sparse. It's going to be all out desperation. If you had the means to simply go home and say fuck it, that luxury is no longer going to be there. This is what's going to cause people to fight. For there shall be sedition among men and invading one another. They shall not regard their kings nor princes, and of course their actions shall stand in their power. Right? So if you think all these riots and everything was something now, imagine when everything costs so high. Imagine when people are mad that they don't want to take that biometrics. They're mad that the government is putting these stuff on them, and now they're getting ready to do something about it. Right? This is stuff that you have to actually sit here and consider. Let me get this one. Proverbs 14:28 says, in the multitude of people is a king's honor, right? So these countries that have all these big populations, they're able to manage, right? They're able to sit here and control these huge nations, right? It says, but in the want of people is the destruction of princes. Meaning when the people are in need, in desperate need, when there's lack of food, they're going to start looking at those people in rulership positions. They're going to start looking at them like, hey, what the fuck, bro? You look at where we're at. Because of you, you're in charge. This is what's happening in Sri Lanka. This is what's happening in Iran, right? These things are popping up all around the globe. Pretty soon it's going to pop off in America, right? So I'm going to play a little more.
But for the 50% of Iran that lives below the poverty line, that's not an option, right? Their only option is to go get in line and accept this mark, this digital biometric ID, to which
poor and free, free and bond, rich and poor.
All resources are being tied, not just bread, but according here, the scheme will later include all goods such as chicken, cheese, vegetable oil, and so on and so forth. So this is a pretty big deal. Let's talk about it. I'm Christian, and this is the Ice Age Farmer broadcast. And there's a lot to this story, from the fact
it's Habakkuk 2:3. It says, for the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it will surely come, it will not tarry. You know? So this is what's happening. Lord will is edifying. Check it out for yourself, brothers. Shalom.